Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me start sharing my screen here. Okay. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to walk you through, a developing fraud incident that just happened with SecureGate. And I will focus on four things, right? What we know so far, what we don't know, the scope and business impact, and the actions that we need to take immediately to stabilize the situation and ultimately protect our clients' trust. So, to first frame like why this incident matters, it's because this is not happening in a stable environment. Fraud today is highly automated and it's designed to mimic legitimate user behavior. And attackers are beginning to blend in with these users. So this means when something goes wrong, it's harder to detect, harder to attribute, and usually discovered only after damage has already occurred. And these are obviously high risk events with real financial and reputational consequences if these were to happen and break those barriers. So, as you know, SecureGate's value proposition is built around detecting this exact type of behavior that I just discussed, which is using behavioral signals layered on top of CAPTCHA to filter out these traffic systems of these attackers. And, we've positioned obviously our system is highly effective with strong accuracy in our early pilots. So the clients are not just using this, as a tool, they're relying on it during their critical and important revenue events. So when it fails, the impact is obviously immediate and it falls back directly onto us whenever something goes wrong. And I mean, our early traction, accelerated, but it also induced a lot of, concentrational risk. Several retailers integrated quickly with us, and our largest partner, in particular, relies heavily on SecureGate, especially during high volume flash sales. So this is, not a low impact issue. When something goes wrong in that environment, it directly affects the client confidence, the transaction flow, the revenue, and all of that in real time. So moving on now to what actually happened. So during a weekend flash sale, a major one of our clients reported a significant surge in fraudulent transactions. Over 18,000 fraudulent attempts um, occurred, and that was roughly 22% of the total transaction volume during that window. So two things make this very concerning. I mean, first, this occurred while SecureGate protection was fully active. Second, the attack traffic showed human-like browsing behavior, which, shows that this was not just some, regular bot attack and was designed to evade detection. So, we're looking at a failure under exactly the conditions the system is supposed to handle, which is, not good for any company whatsoever. So, at this point, we do not have a confirmed root cause. Our internal logs show that traffic passed CAPTCHA validation, which raises the possibility that the failure occurred after our system approved the traffic. However, there's no alignment internally. Some engineers believe the issue may be tied to our behavioral detection layer or a third-party vendor, and others believe it may be regulated to the client's checkout configuration and their stuff. So right now, we're kind of discussing and operating this with incomplete data, and this uncertainty is a big constraint on our further decision making. And I mean, while we're still working through this uncertainty, our external and social situation is, moving much, much faster. I mean, we're already seeing social media posts sharing screenshots of our failures, showing the checkout issues directly to SecureGate. And, clients are posting and they're beginning to question the reliability of our system. So, regardless of the actual root cause, we're already being associated with the failure. and our, reputational risk is skyrocketing through the roof right now. So this puts us in a difficult but common position in crisis sort of managements. We need to act before we have full clarity of the situation. That's the first thing I want to say, because if we wait, um, you know, to complete the whole confirmation on what happened, we're risking losing the client confidence, right? All of our clients can go somewhere else immediately if this starts to become a bigger problem for them. But at the same time, if we move too aggressively without, the verified data, we might risk, misdiagnosing the issue and creating even more additional problems. So, I think we need to prioritize stabilizing the situation while continuing to investigate, what actually happened. So, I've decided for now our focus needs to be on isolating the failure point and restoring our system reliability. At least this is one of our ideas that we have to discuss this as a team. And this means obviously, we need to have a structured analysis across, multiple layers like the capture to bypass attempts, the behavioral detection outputs, and the client checkout logs. And we also need to conduct a full audit of the third-party behavioral analytics vendors, since that is also a potential point of the failure that occurred. And we need to reconstruct the missing system logs from the attack windows, because right now the gaps in visibility are limiting our ability to reach a definitive conclusion on this entire situation. So moving forward, we need to, really manage our client relationships. Our affected partners are already seeing the impact. So our communication, cannot wait for a finalized answer, like I mentioned previously. And we need to provide them, or we definitely need to provide them briefings, give them direct access to, our engineering support and maintain consistent updates with them on what we're currently learning about the situation and what happened. So it's important for us to demonstrate control and accountability to our clients while the situation is still evolving to sort of, build that trust and or maintain that trust with them. So, looking beyond this response, um, this incident obviously shows a big vulnerability in our system. I feel we might be currently too dependent on a single behavioral analytics vendor, which creates, a single point of failure. And to reduce this risk going forward, we need to diversify our detection layers. We need to strengthen our internal models, especially for human mimicking, attacks, and significantly improve logging and monitoring capabilities. In other words, we need to move from a single layer defense approach to a more multi-layer defense approach that can withstand more threats like this if it were to occur in the future. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you for being here, and I know we will be able to push through this crisis together as a team. Take care.